positions will walk into a highly politicized environment, and there may be a certain reluctance on the part of professionals who want to do a good job to walk into such a politicized environment. We have the mayor of Montreal who doesn't hesitate to get on the phone and give hell to the police chief on an issue that concerns himself. There may be a reluctance on the part of communications professionals and ethics advisors to take up these roles. When we have a mayor who seems not to understand the basic principle of separation of powers, and it's not appropriate to interfere politically, to use your political power to demand action on issues that concern yourself. This is an anomaly. Previous mayors in Montreal have not acted in this way. It's come out of the Shangri-La Commission, and I think that sends a signal to communications professionals and ethics advisors elsewhere that perhaps this isn't the place for me. So I think Mayor Coderre needs to send a signal that he will stop doing this, that he will adopt henceforth an arm's length relationship with the police force, and that he will stop interfering on matters that concern himself. I think if he sent that signal, it would be easier for the SPVM to recruit professionals into these two key posts.
Did you have a sense of the mechanisms or controls that you've seen in the plan thus far will be able to address the issues that we've been seeing?
It's always difficult to know which mechanisms will work in reducing misbehavior on the part of police officers, because the bad apples will always find a workaround. And so it has to be a constant struggle of renewing procedures to prevent misconduct. And so it's difficult to know whether some of these measures seem to make sense on paper. We'll have to see how they're applied.
So I just have an extra question. Sure. It's related to the end, because I just at the beginning you mentioned red flags as it relates to what you saw in that presentation. If you could just
Well, I'm interested, for example, in what recommendations the police chief and his team will come up with as concerns second jobs held by police officers. We've had cases with police officers who were running construction companies on the side, or operating building management companies, and with hundreds of units. Are these appropriate posts for police officers to hold? I'd like to hear the recommendations on that. That we could be due for a tightening of control of that particular issue. There's also the centralization of control over communications matters in the office of the police chief. In an environment where there's such political meddling, politicization of the police force, it may be dangerous to put communications directly under the police chief. The police chief is the guy who receives the calls from the mayor and has received calls, 2 calls made on personal matters affecting the mayor. It might be better to have a bit more distance between the mayor and the communications department of the police force. That might give us a more neutral and professional communication service. I also made some comments in French concerning the internal affairs division of the SPVM. We see from the presentation of the police chief that they are actively rethinking how to take up these responsibilities. And more I've come to the conclusion that this role should be performed outside the SPVM. That inherently you compromise the credibility of an investigation if fellow police officers from within the same force are investigating other police officers. Having a bit more institutional distance, I think, would assure us of a more rigorous and trustworthy system to ensure that police officers act professionally at all times. Internal affairs are, no, we have an internal affairs division at the SPVM that's been subject of a lot of allegations. It has been temporarily transferred to Quebec, and there's a mixed group that is now carrying out these investigations. I'm wondering whether that shouldn't be permanent. I'm suggesting yes, it should. We should have an oversight that carries out investigations into the conduct of police officers, rather than having people within the same force carrying out that investigation. I think we would have a more credible investigation, would be more trusted by by the public and by the police officers themselves. You know, we've seen the kind of rivalries that go on within the police force. We've seen allegations that the internal affairs was used to settle scores rather than to stamp out misconduct. And having an outside entity performing for it might, I think, improve the professionalism of the investigation.
What are the police forces?
Are you suggesting that we might be open to it?
Well, he said he's open to that. Chief Pichet said in the hearing that he was open to that. That it really would depend on the, I think, in part of the recommendations of Mr. Bouchard, the lawyer who's been named by the provincial government to analyze the crisis involving internal